Well, welcome on board, everybody. Thank you for joining us this Thursday evening on the next in our series of Live Your Best Digital Landlord Life. It's the collab between Lendlord and Property Tribes, and we are all about a digital first approach as a way for landlords to really optimize their portfolios and also mitigate their risk. And of course, post COVID-19, those risks have been significantly amplified. And before I get going with today's agenda, first of all, just want to thank everybody for joining us. Really appreciate your support here. And I wanted just to touch briefly on some content that we had on Property Tribes earlier this week. Hopefully some of you saw it. It was an interview with a gentleman by the name of Michael Romeo, who is only 35 years old, and unfortunately about 18 months ago he was diagnosed with terminal cancer and was given 1 year to live. He is surviving longer than the prognosis that the doctors gave him, and he has taken this opportunity to write a book about the financial lessons that he learned as a result of getting a diagnosis for terminal cancer. It really changed his attitude to money, to finance, and of course health. And it was interesting, I was talking to Avram about this earlier this week, and a few years ago Nick and I did some coaching with a company called Landlords, who are a very big business coaching company, and they said to us, what would you and Nick do if you had that you went under a bus moment? And we said, what do you mean? And they said, well, look, you have to have protocols in place that should one or both of you be taken out of the business, that there would be manuals and protocols to allow somebody to take over the business and continue to run it. And this really kind of hit home to me again when I did the interview with Michael, because he hadn't done this. And essentially, we have to think, we are running businesses as landlords and property investors. We have to think what would happen if we had a catastrophic event in our life, such as an accident, illness, or death that took us out of the business. And it's interesting because actually Lendlord, it does actually provide a solution for that, because when you make your will, you should definitely also instigate a power of attorney. You could leave your Lendlord login details with your solicitor, and in the event of one of these unfortunate circumstances happening, somebody could step in and take over your portfolio. They would have all the property details, all the letting agent details, all the tenant details, everything they needed to carry on managing it in your absence. And I think over the years we've had several incidents and sort of commentary on Property Tribes where somebody who was never involved in the business, their partner ran the business, their partner died unexpectedly, and the other partner was left to pick up the pieces. And again, Lendlord would have provided a solution for those poor people that took over a portfolio that they had no understanding of. They didn't even know the tenants' names or anything. So that's something that we're going to dig a little bit deeper on in the future, just to think about how Lendlord is a tool to really mitigate risk in the event that something should happen to you, something unfortunate. And I just wanted to start that off this evening because I found the interview with Michael so inspirational and so thought-provoking, and it's really good to talk about these things. We don't talk about them enough, and it's something that we want to do more of going forwards. So on that note, I'm going to come to Aviram because today we've got some new features to talk about just very quickly. And Aviram over there in Tel Aviv, good evening to you. And Aviram, of course, the co-founder and CEO of Lendlord. Aviram, we've got the new rent collection module, so you're going to tell us a little bit about that.
So hello everyone, and hi Vanessa. So today we will start with some overview of the new releases. And then we will go to the main topic of the session, that this is like the due dates and how you can set the alerts on Landlord and get notified. And Vanessa will add some content in terms of which dates you should track and be alerted. And so we will start first with the new and the recent releases. Let me share the screen. Can you see the screen? Mm-hmm. Okay. So we got a lot of feedback, and I think this is interesting because this is the way we developed Lendlord. It's like with a lot of feedback that we got from our users. And we started with my portfolio to store and track your portfolio and property details. Then we got requests from users to add this page, My Tenants, to start tracking their tenants' details. And then we got more requests from several users to help them track their rent collection. And this is something that you can do like currently manually on Landlord, and I will show you how. So first go to My Tenants. In this page, you can add, by clicking on Add Tenant, any tenant. It can be, let's call it tenant A. It can be an actual tenant, so a tenant that already signed an agreement and started his tenancy. It can be a prospect tenant, some tenant that you are now can be like start like a reference check or just started like the discussion with him or showed interest. And also you can keep an old tenant as a past tenant. You can put all the relevant details, whatever you want to store. Put the tenancy start date, and this is very important for the rent collection, because in order to use the rent collection, you need to keep and enter some values of certain fields. So one is the tenancy start date. So let's say that this tenancy started in January 2020. The tenancy end date, let's say it's a year. Then the other details, we will not focus on those, but it's like important details to store because the focus now is on rent collection. And make sure that you put the property that the tenant is now attached to. If you don't do that, you will not see the rent collection, the payment schedule that I will show in a sec. Another thing that we added is a unit name for HMO's properties. So you can also put a name on the unit, and then it's like another way to filter your tenants and to track your HMO property. Then you go to the rent collection fields. So you should put the rent payment of this specific tenant. The frequency of the payment can be weekly, bi-weekly, 4-weekly, monthly, quarterly, 4 months, annually, or free. Let's put it monthly, and the first payment date. And when you enter the first payment date, basically the platform can create the payment schedule. So if I click done, and then I can go either from the tenant row, the action rent collection, or I can click on the rent collection from the main screen. And then I can also filter by tenants, by properties, or by payments. And I will explain. So first, let's pick the period that we want to see the payment schedule for. I would put January 2020 to December 2020. So you can see that the platform created all the payments that should be received from all tenants on all properties. This is like the tenant that we just sent, tenant A. If you want to see only tenants A, and this is something that is like common on the platform. You can see all those features also on my portfolio, also in profit and loss. It's very important, like that if you miss data, make sure that the filter is on all. Because sometimes you visit the page when it let's say like one tenant or one property is picked, and then you can see only the data for this specific item. So if I want to see only Ben Trindle, or I want to see tenant ID we just added, you can just click on the name of the tenant. You can also look at the specific property, and then if you have like more than one tenant on a property, you can take a view on this property. And you can also take a look on which payments are due, which payments are overdue, and which payments already paid.
Yeah.
Now that's not connected to a bank account, is it, Aviram? So you would be manually entering when you receive the tenant's payment. Sorry, we've got two cats fighting here.
Yeah, exactly.
Our two boy cats. They're attacking each other, sorry.
Yes, so basically what you will see here is a payment schedule that the platform creates, and you should track it manually. And the way to track it is first pick the period, then go to the due payments. And just let's say that you see like we have like a payment that should pay like 3 days ago. It's like currently overdue. Let's say that the tenant paid the rent. You got it, you know, in a check or in a bank account, debit or credit card. You should track it not on Lendlord currently. It's something that you should track on other platform or like manually. Go to Lendlord, put the payment that you received, put the date that you got the payment. We will still track the overdue days, so you will have it, and we will do some reports in the near future. So you will also have the ability to go backwards and see how many days some tenants were like in overdue and things like that. And then click on save. It's also important to save this data. Once you save it, and this is like very important, you will see it in the profit and loss. So I go now to the profit and loss page. I will pick the property of Ben, and I can see that now I track June. I go to monthly income, click on edit, and then you can see that the platform created this entry. So it's rent, Ben Trindle, the date, and how much he paid. If you're not happy with the title, the subject, so you can click on rename, and you can change the description of this payment. You can also edit it after that, and you can also upload an invoice or a receipt if you would like to do that.
So there you go. That's a little tour around the rent collection module. And I think in view of what I said right at the start of the webinar, I mean, how useful would it be to have all that data at your fingertips, or to be able to, for somebody else to access that data in the event that something happened to you and you weren't able to manage the portfolio. It's all there, so it'd be very easy for somebody to take it over from you. And I think the other thing worth pointing out is we mentioned earlier this digital first approach, which we are really encouraging landlords to adopt. And all of this is in the cloud, and even now on Property Tribes, there's people talking about how they have an office full of files and paper, and you know, it's amazing that they can't move on from that, because everything is stored securely in the cloud. So you can access this information wherever you are in the world, 24/7, 365, as long as you have an internet signal. It's not going to get damaged if you know, there was a fire where you were storing these documents. They're not going to go missing. All of that data is there for you, literally at your fingertips. And this is what we mean by adopting a digital first approach. It makes everything so much easier, and it massively mitigates risk. Now, the second module we were going to look at was the prospect properties module. And this is kind of a sister module to our deal sourcing module, which is coming very soon. I've seen the first version of it, and it is absolutely cracking. It's brilliant, and everybody's going to be blown away by it when we release it. So we're just putting the finishing touches to that, but it's going to be a really useful tool for landlords to understand if a deal stacks up or not. It gives all sorts of different metrics. And you can also apply it to your current properties as well to fully understand them and see all the different KPIs that you might be interested in understanding. But the prospect module is the opportunity for you to try out a prospective property and see how it fits within your portfolio and see how it affects the performance of your portfolio. So Avaram, are you able to give us a quick tour around the prospect properties module?
Right, yeah. Let's do it from scratch. So go to my portfolio. In my portfolio, you can add an actual property that you currently hold. When you add a property, of course, you can mark it as a company limit. If you own it like under a company or like a private ownership, you can also play with the specific owners. And something new that we've added 2 or 3 weeks ago is the prospect properties. So you can also add a prospect property that you still not didn't purchase. You can put the address. This is something new, so we extract now the postcode for you, so you don't need to enter the postcode as well. A purchase date, of course, it's not relevant, but you can put the estimated price. You can put how much you think the property is worth. There might be different because you might purchase the property under his current value or like above his current value with the expected rental income. We will not touch it now, but you have a page dedicated to search for mortgage options according to your portfolio. So let's say that you did that, and in the deal analyzer it will be embedded. You can put how much you think you are going to take on debt, what we are like a loan amount. Let's say it's 100, and also I will put it on the original one. And let's say that what will be your rate. You can calculate the monthly costs. Click on done, and then you will see it in green. This is like a prospect property. The default is that the filter of my portfolio will be without the prospect. So if you don't see the prospect on my portfolio, make sure that you check the prospect properties that you want to see. And you can see like the glance changes according to the filters. So let's say that now you are going to add this property, well fitted post close, and you are going to sell 125 London Wall. Then this will be like your combination with the prospect property, and if you sell like existing property. And as Vanessa mentioned, we are about to release, it's now in the test environment, and we will do like a webinar just dedicated for that, a deal analyzer. So you can analyze a prospect property, and you can also analyze an existing property to see the next 12 months figures according to your assumptions in terms of property appreciation, rental appreciation, and inflation, and also long-term metrics such as IRR, equity multiple, DCR, GRM, and more. It's very enhanced deal analyzer, and we are very excited to release it hopefully next week. And this will be like together along with the prospect properties. This starting to make the My Portfolio page as a decision maker for you to understand which properties are now like underperforming, which properties are outperforming, and make better decision. Also manage your pipeline in one platform.
Indeed, and I think it's going to be such a useful tool because if you're anything like me, I really do find it hard to think even about selling a property, but we have to make commercial decisions, and essentially what we've got here is some software that totally takes out all the emotional side of everything and just really works solely on the actual numbers, because numbers never lie, provided that you put the right data in. So these are going to be very, very useful tools to help you fine-tune your portfolio and make decisions about which properties are going to work for you, maybe which ones are a little bit weak that might be a good idea to sell and utilize the money elsewhere on a better performing property. So these are going to be very, very useful tools going forward. Now, we've got a couple of questions come in just before we move on. Anil says, does the software allow to add VAT and lettings agent monthly commission?
Yes. So in order to track your all monthly expenses and also the management agent fee, you should go to the profit and loss. And this is something that we should explain. My portfolio is your current snapshot of the portfolio and the existing properties and prospect properties. Every month, automatically the platform carry over the current snapshot to the next month and keep let's say keep June 2020 as an historical snapshot, and we start with 60 historical snapshots. So if something has changed, like rental income, mortgage balance, mortgage payment, you should track it and change it on my portfolio. All the operating expenses should be managed on the profit and loss. So let's say that now you want to add your management agent fee monthly costs. You should go to profit and loss, pick the relevant property, click on monthly expenses. In this box, you can see the monthly expenses over the months. Click on edit. Then you have management agent fee here. You can edit it and put the exact amount. We got already several requests from users to put like a percentage, because usually it's like a percentage. In the deal analyzer, what I'm showing now, it's like a test environment. We already implemented it, so it will like a percentage will like default of 10%. Mm-hmm. But on the ongoing expense tracking on profit and loss, you can track your managing agent fee. Make sure you check the recurring expense, so the platform will carry it over automatically to July 2020. So you don't need to do nothing. And this is something that we recommend, and we have a video I did together with Vanessa, 5 things you need to know about Landlord. So there is a section how to set your P&L there. We can share it with the audience in the post tomorrow on Property Tribes. And the thing that is what you need to make sure is like go to the last month, June 2020, make sure all the fixed expenses, the recurring one, are here. Okay, and make sure the recurring expense is checked, and then the platform will carry it over. If you want also to take care of the history, you should use the copy expenses backward. Pick the period you want to copy the value and the specific expense, and then when you click copy expenses, the platform will do it automatically for you, and you can, by that, arrange your historical figures as well. And from now onward, the platform will carry over the fixed expenses. And if you want to add an unexpected expense, just click on add expense. We have a list of predefined expenses. I think like almost all of them you can claim for. But if you don't find it, you can click on other expense and put your own description. And you can add a one-time expense. Make sure that it's not a recurring expense, unless it's like a recurring expense, of course. You can also upload the receipt and click on done.
Fantastic. Yeah. I think Nick was just going to jump in for a second.
Hello, everyone. Just quickly, I wanted to say, with respect to the prospect portfolio, the prospect purchase, and also the deal analyzer that Aviram mentioned as well. I am the eternal geek, and one thing that I really do like is to be able to put data into a system and see how it fits with everything. The deal analyzer, and indeed to a lesser degree or greater degree, the prospect tool, is a fantastic bit of kit. We have spent an enormous amount of time and had help from people, indeed all around the world, on making this the best that we can, to the extent whereby you can put properties into your portfolio and see, like everyone mentioned earlier on, how they track over 10, 15, 20 years, given the data that you wish to feed into it, to highlight which ones are the best ones to keep and which ones are the best ones to lose. Ultimately, it's down to the data that you put in, but it is a very smart bit of kit. And Andy Mason asked me earlier on whether or not the prospect tools, yes, you can swap from a prospect or a purchase into your portfolio as well, once you take it on board. I just wanted to say that to you because we are going to be releasing that very shortly, and it's going to be a very smart bit of kit. Might take more than one webinar to get through it all, Mike, because there's quite a lot involved in that one, but it is quite good, even if I may say so myself. So I'm gonna switch off now. Sorry, I had to get my pennies worth in there because I'm the eternal geek and I love this sort of stuff. Anyway, thanks guys for listening.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting to look at the prospect properties module also from the perspective of how much time it could save you, because it's always been my personal method when I'm researching property deals to always stack the numbers first before I even step out of the front door to go and look at a property, because I know people that have driven 200 miles to see a property and then found out after the event that it didn't work at all. So our advice is to do your due diligence first. I mean, with the prospect property tool, you could, do some DD on 20 properties, narrow that down to maybe 3 or 4 that are definitely worth looking at. And you've really made a good use of your time. You haven't gone out, there's Scotty there. You haven't gone out looking at properties that that just don't work. So you're going to work a lot more efficiently using the prospect property tool. And if you do actually choose one of those properties and go ahead with the acquisition, then as Nick said, you can actually convert it to a portfolio property, and it can slide into your portfolio as an actual acquisition. So I hope you found that useful. Again, we're really only scratching the surface here, and what we're trying to do with these educational webinars is to show you how to start using the different modules so you can find your way around, but also we want to use real life landlord and property investor examples about how and where they're going to really assist you in building a really strong, well-performing portfolio. So that's really part of the kind of aims of these webinars is to kind of relate to actual real life things that landlords and property investors do. So, sorry, Nick?
Avram showing me something, showcasing.
Oh, okay. Avram, did you want to just quickly show something?
No, just like I showed, like things that what you speak, I just like demonstrate. But I think we can go to the due dates now.
Yes. Can you show us how to convert a prospect property to an actual property quickly?
So this function is not ready yet, but it will.
It's coming.
Yeah, it's coming. It will be with the release of the deal analyzer. So you will be able to switch from a prospect to actual.
Okay, so we're talking about maybe two weeks or so until we get these actually live on the platform, but they are coming and they're going to really increase the functionality and really help you further. Okay, now we're just going to quickly move on to the compliance module. And as we said in the webinar earlier this week, the one that led to this one, it's really important to understand that as a landlord, you have many legal obligations to provide a safe and compliant home for your tenant. And if you don't, the penalties and the fines are very, very significant, aside from the fact that you could put your tenant's health or indeed their life at risk if you don't adhere to these 160 government statutes and regulations. So our compliance module is there to assist you in remaining compliant. And basically you input the due date for the different aspects of compliance. There's obviously, it's almost like a compliance checklist, if you like. And then when those due dates become on the horizon, you will start to receive notifications that this event is coming and you've got to take some action to remain compliant. Now, it might be that you need a new gas safety certificate. It might be that you need a new EPC. It might be that you need to do a electrical check, which is coming in to the private rented sector from the 1st of July. Any number of things that you need to do. It might be that you have an insurance renewal to do. You will receive reminders for all of these events, and you can choose the frequency of how you get reminded. So it's very customizable to how you want to receive these notifications and alerts. So Avram's going to give us a quick tour of the compliance module.
Right. So basically, the easiest way to do it is just to put the dates, and the platform will take care of the alerts. So let's make it right. I can add a new property. As you can see, you have sections. You can show and hide the sections and decide which fields you want to enter. So let's put an address, and I will focus only on the dates right now. So the first section in terms of like important dates to track is the mortgage fields. So here usually you have, of course, the end date of the mortgage. So you can track it on the platform. And important date is if you are like on a fixed rate with the initial period, you should also track your rate expiry date. And I can just click now on done, and you can see that the dates that I entered will be in 3 different places. One, on your dashboard, you will see the due dates for the next 3 months. So this is like for a property that I entered before. So you can see like that I have in August 19 a gas certificate expiry, in September 16 a mortgage product expiry. And if you like for this property, I didn't put the address, but this is like the identifier of the property, the address, and you can see that you have a due date in terms of mortgage product. The second place you can see the dates is in the insights page. And here you can see the next 12 months due dates. You can also integrate it to your calendar if you use a Google Calendar by clicking Add to Calendar. The platform will prepare, wait, do it from here. So the platform will create a calendar event on Google with the specific event. You can set the reminder that you want and add more details on the description of the event. Click on save. It will be also stored on your Google Calendar. Now, let's continue. I will go back to this property. This was the mortgage section. The next section is the property details field. So here, if it's an HMO, you'll get the HMO license due date. So you can put this date, and automatically the platform will create an alert. Another dates in this section are the utilities and contract dates, and you can also put them here. Of course, you can also track your gas utility supplier, the contact details, and also if you put the end date, you will get alert. I think that perhaps we can just like complete the demonstration of the due dates. There are several more. So you can track your supplier contract end date on any utility. You can put your gas certificate end date. The next electrical check, EICR that needs to be done. And energy performance, EPC. So for all of those dates, you just need to put the dates. The platform will create an alerts for you. I think another important date that Vanessa, perhaps you can also elaborate more on that, is the midterm inspection. So you can also get alert on that.
Yes, I think that inventories and midterm property inspections are just absolutely vital. I don't think landlords really appreciate how valuable they are. Obviously, the inventory gives you kind of ground zero for the start of the tenancy. It documents the state of the property before the tenant moves in and the tenant agrees that that was the state of the property when they moved in. It's a huge thing to have for the end of the tenancy. If the tenancy hasn't run smoothly, if there's been damage, then the inventory will provide evidence of the extent of the damage and prove that it was the tenant that did it, because we saw how the property was at the start of the tenancy. So inventories, again, really, really important. Midterm property inspections, my personal policy is I arrange for my agent to undertake one 3 months after the tenant has moved in. This is to meet with the tenant and see how they're settling into the property. It's an opportunity to see how they're living there, to make sure that there's no subletting going on, to make sure there's no unauthorized pet in residence. All these kind of things are all really important to mitigate your risk. And then once you've done your midterm property inspection at 3 months after the start of the tenancy, then I tend to do them about once every 6 months thereafter. So again, this compliance module is reminding you of these important events that are going to mitigate your risk. And as we know in property, and as we're always stating, we can't state it enough, that prevention is always less heartache, less emotional stress, less financial loss than cure. You want to be in prevention mode as much as possible, and Lendlord is designed to put you into prevention mode to mitigate risk of these things going wrong by getting tenancies set up from day one. And I cannot stress enough, and there's many experienced landlords on this call, far more experienced than myself and Nick, who will agree with me that a key to a successful tenancy is to set it up right from day one, and really make sure that you've got all your your everything dotted and crossed, belts and braces. Far less risk that it will turn sour later down the line. So really, all of this compliancy module helps you to keep on top of this. And the more properties you have, if you're self-managing, obviously, the more there is to do. And again, a stress, it's all in the cloud. You're not waiting for a letter to land on your doorstep, which might get lost in the post. Everything is there, all the reminders in the cloud, access 24/7, 365 from anywhere in the world. And it's so important, again, because I'm sure many of us on this call got into property to be able to basically live a life where we can do all the things that we love to do with the people that we love to be with. In Nick's case, it's climbing mountains, or we're out motorhoming or sailing or whatever it may be. You've got Lendlord with you, all the time, to be able to access all this information and make wise decisions to mitigate your risk. So anything to add to that, Avriram?
Yes, one last thing. If you is the email notification, I want also to have a quick talk. So once you click done, go to the insights, you will see all the due dates here. You will also get a notification. In the notification sidebar, you can always open and see the next action items that you need to take. For each event, you will receive an email, and you can configure on the settings the frequency you want to receive a notification to your email. Like 90, 60, 30, 40, or 3 days before the event. And you can check all of them and get emails on each property on this frequency. So if you do that, you have the notifications, you have all the due dates in Insight. You can also integrate it to your calendar. Then I think you are covered in terms of all the alerts. And last alert, you can also, if you put a tenancy end date on your tenants, you will see the end dates also on your dashboard and on the insights. It's something, it's another thing that you can track. Yeah, I think that's all for the compliance and due dates.
Okay. So we were going to run for about 45 minutes, so we're there now. Any other quick questions? Sorry, I'm just quickly looking through the chat. Somebody mentioned about an app. It's not an app at the moment. It is fully responsive on your smart device, but an app is on the roadmap for sure going forwards. So that's coming. Any other questions, anybody? Sorry, I'll just quickly look through the chat if I've missed anything.
South African investment property.
Okay. Well, we'll check through this and we'll answer any questions that we missed on the follow-up post for tomorrow. So you can check in tomorrow if we didn't get your question.
There's a question for last question.
Oh yes, Jits is asking, how far back do you think we should go in loading existing property details?
So the platform, you can store whatever you want. So there are no mandatory fields. I can create a property only with its address. And my recommendation is to start with the basic details. So put the address, postcode will be automatically entered, date of purchase, purchase price, value. So like the general field, some of the mortgage fields, I would say important because it will help you track the metrics. So in order to track your equity, LTV, gross cash flow, just put your original mortgage balance, current mortgage balance, what is your current rate, how much you pay on mortgage in terms of your monthly costs. If you want to get insights on remortgage, put your early redemption fees. And I think this is like enough for a start, and then start to work with the platform. And then after that, you can tweak your properties anytime, and you can make sure that the data is up to date and add any other detail you want to keep. And yeah, and you can do it anytime.
Fantastic. Well, I hope everybody's found that valuable this evening. Thank you very much for joining us. Really appreciate you tuning in. We'll be back on Property Tribes tomorrow with a recording of the webinar, and also we'll be answering any questions that we missed. But for now, we're signing off and saying thank you very much to everybody for being with us this evening and listening to the webinar. And we're going to have more of these, and I think we're really looking forward to releasing the deal sourcing app, because it really is cracking, and everybody's going to love it, and it's just going to take deal sourcing apps to a whole another level. And of course, it's going to be free, like Lendlord. So lots to look forward to on this collab between Lendlord and Property Tribes. You're part of our journey, and we do appreciate your support and your feedback. Thank you very much to you, Aviram.
Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you all.
We'll see you soon as well. And we'll see everybody hopefully on Property Tribes. And indeed, if you've got any other questions, please drop them on the thread tomorrow, or use the chat bot on Lendlord, which is manned by Aviram, and he's very, very quick to respond to any questions you have. And if you do feel you have a large portfolio you want to input, then you can arrange a personal guided tour with Aviram over Skype. So do get in touch if you feel you need a bit of extra support. That's what we're here for. So we're signing off now. Aviram saying goodbye from Tel Aviv in Israel, and Nick and I are saying good evening from Guildford in Surrey. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.